My name is Rita Lauver, Medford, Minnesota. I met the Moosehoffs through my store. Their two daughters always came up and went through our antique store. They just started to hang around. I found out that the Moosehoffs has adopted children. It's something that me and Lauren had always thought about since we don't have our own. We definitely thought about going through social services. After this nightmare, absolutely not, ever. So not only did it affect us and our friends, but it affected us in our personal life also. The children were a delight to us. We spent a lot of time with them. The kids came and stayed overnight with us. We were invited to birthdays. We were invited to, not always could we go, but we were invited to Christmases, holidays. They became like a second family to us. I've used track. When all of this came about, at first, Deanna had always told me that these kind of things could happen. And I was just dumbfounded that the allegations could be made that were made. I have questioned a lot of what's gone on. It's very hard for me to talk about. I've had to distance myself from it lately. My mind just can't wrap around what's gone on here. The injustice that's gone on, not just for these parents, but for these poor kids that are stuck in a home, there's not even a family there for them. They have different caretakers all the time, and these are kids that have special needs. They need special people there. They need to have a family. They need to have one person taking care of them. I feel that social services are now abusing these children. That what they've done to these kids, where they have them at, is total abuse. Through the court, during the court time, I felt like I went to some of the court things myself, and I listened to the social services in court, and I didn't feel like they even answered most of the questions that they were asked. They would give some indirect answer that didn't even make sense, and they were never made to actually answer some of the questions that they were being asked. Whatever they said, it seemed to be taken at their word. I don't feel like there was never they didn't have to have proof. They were just able to say what they wanted to say, and it was taken as that's the truth. They said things that I don't even know where they came up with it at. I don't understand where they can get by with that. I think they have too much room. They take a sink full of dishes and call it a disaster in the house. I just don't. Social services has way too big of an arm, and that needs to be stopped. I feel like the judges, they're wrapped up. It's all county. They're going to go along with what they want. They're going to go along with social services to save their name. What else? Yeah, I'm stuck. Deanna has been a very good friend. She knew that we were really interested in the adoption, so she was always helping me. She was always encouraging me to go ahead and do this. That was probably one of our main focuses when we first got to know each other, before we really got to know the kids and everybody. But me and Deanna talked a lot about adopting through the social services, and some of the things that she could do with those kids were just amazing. I was always, when social services said that things weren't being taken care of, I was very surprised, because These guys could fly on the seat of their pants if they needed to. Um, the day was there was never a normal day in that house, and they lived in the chaos, and they made it work. They made it work. They made this chaos work, and they made it fun too. I loved going over there with those kids. I absolutely loved it.
Were you aware of the damage from the girls' bedrooms down into the ceiling? Did you ever see that?
Yeah, I did see when that was all taken apart. Yep, I
Talk
knew
about
that.
that a little bit.
Okay, I know there was damage in the house from the girls. Um, the one in particular, I don't want to say both because I only knew it as one of the girls, who would defecate, go to the bathroom wherever she wanted. Which I was taught in me and Lauren did take classes to do the adoption, and we were taught that things like this would happen. We were taught to expect this kind of stuff. We were taught that these kids would do this kind of stuff, and not to be surprised. This is pretty normal for kids who have gone through what these kids have gone through, especially the two girls. This is not odd at all. And I was shocked when we were in court, and I can't remember his name, but they had somebody up there who has dealt with kids with RAD, and he was telling them that this is normal stuff for children with RAD to do, and you have to protect those kids. Yeah, there wasn't a lot of stuff in those girls' rooms, but there couldn't be either. It's just like if you had a kid and they were misusing their bicycle, you would take it away from them. Well, I feel the same if a girl was using a dresser to jump off and hurt herself. You got to take the dresser away till she can learn to work with it right. I don't see anything wrong with the parenting that they did with these kids.
It's not like there's a shortage of stuff in their house. There's plenty of stuff all over.
Oh, there's stuff all over that house. It's awesome. Yes. And they were always involved. They were always involved with us when we were there eating. They were always there. I don't get this part about the kids being in their rooms, and they were all out running around. We were all having a good time.
When did you last see the girls before they were taken away?
I had not seen them for a couple months. Um, I guess my other thing that just really throws me here, talking about seeing the girls, is they're putting all of this on. Just another way to show how ridiculous this is. They're putting all of this on Deanna. Deanna at the time was working her store, and Jeff was the main caretaker at home because he was laid off. And how they got all of this put on Deanna, to me, just shows how much more of a grudge it is against her than it is the truth. Because how could she have done all this stuff when she was really not the main caretaker at the time? Jeff was. But they seem to put it all on Deanna. The girls I probably had seen a couple months before that. In fact, probably about 6 months before that, there were some other things that went on, and Adriana was in a home, and that home got closed, and then for some reason social services took her out and put her in another home and didn't contact Deanna and Jeff that they were doing this, and none of it really made sense what they were doing, and they were going to put her in her foster home. And I remember going with Deanna to a foster home that they were going to put her in, and the foster family there was, I think they even felt like it was like a really strange case going on here. And that's probably about the last time I really got a chance to talk to Adriana. We talked all the way over there and back. And it just seems like it's just been one thing after another. They've just gone after Deanna. And I don't get it because she was not the main caregiver at the time. Um, I just feel they have it out for her, and anything that they can come up with, they're gonna try to use.
You haven't cried much. You warned me you were going to cry. What part of this makes you cry?
When we talk about the kids and where they're at, when you take away all the adults all the adults, and no matter how we feel, it all comes back to the kids and where they're at right now. And for them to be out there and not knowing that their family loves them as much as they do, their family and their friends still love them. I was very, very lucky last night. I was at the fair in Owatonna and I ran into the kids. And I did get a chance to talk to them just for a brief little bit. And I had to remember to be careful because at the Waseca Fair, I walked up to Annie. Annie doesn't see real well. And I walked up to her too fast. I didn't get time to adjust to my face, so she didn't know who I was, and I scared her. So last night I was very careful, and I walked up, and I slowly walked up and said, "Hey, Annie, do you remember me?" And she had this big smile on her face. She had about 3 lanyards on her, which is one of her most favorite things, is wearing these lanyards around. She had 3 of them on, and she was in charge of the keys to the van that night. She did remember me that night. I think she didn't know what to, she just kept staring at me and Lauren. But of course, Lauren has always been her favorite. Carlos immediately recognized us and started being goofy. Nevaeh, I think she recognizes voices. I think she knew it was us. Isaiah, he had just gotten his hair cut. And so he was hiding that from us. And finally he showed me his hair. He had it all shaved off. He said he wanted it that way. But he wanted me to feel his hair, which is what he's always done to me. He always wants me to feel his hair. But they are the victims in all of this. They are the truest victims to be taken from a home years ago. In fact, it makes you start to wonder, why were they taken from their homes? Was that even right at the time? Should they have been taken from their original home? Another reason why I don't want to do foster care anymore is for the fact that maybe these kids shouldn't even be taken from their homes. I don't want to have to deal with. I wouldn't want kids that shouldn't have been removed in the first place. But when it comes down to it, it's the kids. It's the kids that matter. Not only those 4 kids, those 6 kids, but what it's done to the Mooseolf kids also. And to me, even the oldest is still a child.
Yeah, they got a bunch of babies.
They do. Yes. Yeah, and what it's done to their life, and how I look at all of them and think, how are they ever going to get any trust back in their lives? When this has happened to them, how are they ever going to be able to trust anything? And I know I can't. I don't trust a lot of what's going out there anymore. I don't trust your police officers. I don't trust your social service workers. I don't trust your judges. I at least had faith in the judge. I knew the judge personally. He used to come into my store. And when he got elected, actually I don't think he was elected, which our judges are supposed to be elected, but he was appointed. I congratulated him on it. And if I could take that back today, I would take it back in a second. Mr. Collins, you did not listen to nothing, and I will not call you judge, because you are not a judge. One other thing I wanted to add is, actually, one of the social service workers was a very good friend of mine. I spent time with the family. Christmases I spent with them. I knew her kids. I knew her whole family. So when we first went to one of the first visitations, or the family, whatever they wanted to call it, I don't remember, a family meeting, I thought, oh, well, Amy's going to understand, because Amy had told me before that if I was going to adopt, to make sure I didn't get a child with RAD because of how bad it could be. So I thought, well, Amy's going to understand this. She's definitely going to understand this because she's warned me about it. Come to find out, she had no intentions of even listening. That was not their intentions at all. They tried to end those family meetings so fast. They didn't want us there. They didn't want to hear what we had to say. So I started talking to other people about Amy. I would just bring it up, and anytime you bring up Waseca Social Services, this is the answer you get. If you say, have you heard what social services has been up to? And they said, oh, Waseca, they could be up to anything. People would not talk, because I know a family that kind of stood up for them. and they have a daycare, and they went after they did their daycare. They had somebody over there within a week going through all their daycare papers to make sure they were all up to date. People will not talk about it in Waseca. I talked to three or four families, and they're afraid. They are scared to death to tell their story. They will not. They will not tell their story. They are afraid of the repercussions.